Welcome back, everybody. We're finally getting this working. John Aravosis here with Cliff Schecter, Unpresidented podcast. We are here today with 2/3 of MeidasTouch.
66%. That's not
66%.
Meatloaf saying something about that.
That's bipartisan, I think, even 66%.
There you
66%. If this was like a baseball hitter, this would be like Hall of Fame, next level, batting 666. I mean,
all right,
let's talk baseball for a while. We'll see how uncomfortable John gets.
I was going to say, watch the sports analogies, or I'm going to start talking about.
My dad grew up in the Bronx. I'm a Yankees fan. We can talk. I bet you guys you're from the island. You're probably Mets fans, aren't you?
All right, listen. It's going to be it's going to be a brutal conversation if we go in the sports direction, because we did in fact grow up on Long Island, and we did I blame family. I totally blame my dad and my grandfather, but we managed to pick all the teams that never actually win games.
Except you sons of you SOBs had to be Islanders fans, and they win, and the Rangers don't. So you won that one.
Yeah, but it's New York, and quite honestly, nobody really cares about hockey in New York.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm from Chicago. Hockey,
baseball, football, and no basketball too. But I grew up a Knicks fan, so there you go, guys. I don't know if you are too, but those guys get more sexual harassment charges than wins on an average year. So
unbelievable. I remember the Knicks being exciting in the 90s. Honestly, Jordy's always been the sports guy in the family. And I think one of the reasons I took the nerdy route and became the video guy and the computer guy is because I was watching these teams lose all the time. And I was watching my brothers just be frustrated constantly. I was watching my dad every week and go, oh, there it is. The Jets lost again. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do this to myself every week. I'm not gonna do that. I'll be nerdy. I'll make videos.
Let me tell folks who you are, just because.
Yes, please.
There's always a chance. These guys are 2/3 of MeidasTouch, MEIDAS. I'm guessing the spelling is sort of a pun on your last name.
It is indeed. Yes.
Okay.
Our last name is Meiselas.
Is the name?
Yeah, MEISELAS is our last name. Meiselas.
Lithuanian, or what is it?
It's it's one of those Austrian names that when our relatives came over.
Austrian names?
Austrian, Polish, Jewish names.
Is it Jewish like mine? Excellent.
Yeah, it's when our relatives when our ancestors came over to Ellis Island, they said, it's not going to be that, and they made it Meiselas.
Generally, what we try to do, John, is we said, let's make it a little bit harder for them to find us in the pogroms. And so you cut some extra letters out and stuff, and you try to do what you can.
You're spot on. That's actually it gets a little bit darker than that. I think they tried to conceal the fact that they were Jewish or Jewish descent.
No, mine too. My name's Schecter, which is German, but they cut out an extra H. They tried to Germanify it. So it was German Jewish. They wanted to emphasize the German part and not the Jewish part, because they figured, bad.
Now you're totally not Jewish without the H. It fools me.
But we're able to fool right. That H has a lot of power.
I'm just saying it's a more German spelling. Just trust me.
Cliff and I make a lot of Jew gay jokes back and forth.
Right. So John's the gay Greek immigrant. If you have any gay Greek immigrant jokes, throw them to John.
Hey, you may not want to make those. I don't think we can go there.
I'm saying you make them. I'm not touching them.
I'll let you do the gay jokes. I'm gonna stay away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll stick to the Jewish jokes and the brother jokes.
Right. I got Jew. I got Midwesterner. I got now that I live out here, I got a couple of things I can,
So to finish who these guys are, so the three brothers, these two in front of you, Brett, Jordy, and Ben, the third one who's a lawyer out in LA now. The three got together about a year ago, actually March, so it has been a year. You're as old as the coronavirus now. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But got together and got pissed off and decided to start a PAC where they basically did videos going after Trump. Expanded certainly from that. You guys got very involved in the Georgia runoff as well. You've done extremely well in terms of fundraising, in terms of also then cranking out the videos. We can go to lots of different stuff because It's funny. I've watched your interviews, so I feel like I don't want to repeat everything, but at the same time, not everybody may know.
Well, I want to say.
Cliff quickly. And then somebody give us.
It's somebody because there's envy and jealousy, and there's competing people who are like, your stuff went viral, and you'll hear some people like, oh well, that was just on Twitter or whatever. I want to say, because I don't know, you guys know, I wrote ads for Biden's campaign this past time.
Oh wow!
I have an ad writing and PR firm, and I'm just to say, you guys' ads were excellent, and so for somebody like me who had to be, keep my mouth shut and and not try to not embarrass the client. I love that you guys are out there, doing what you were doing. We needed it. So,
oh my gosh,
really
thank you
appreciate
so much.
that.
That means so much.
Seriously, thank you. And I could give Brett, if it's okay, I could give the 10,000 foot overview.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
How we found it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Brett jump in, when I mess up. So you're right. We're almost a year old. Coming up at the end of this month, actually, is when we bought the MeidasTouch domain, like March 27th or something like that.
March 25th.
See, he's already correcting me.
See, there you go. Yeah.
But basically, you're right. Quarantine hits.
Brothers.
There's three of us. We all come from three different backgrounds, right? My background's marketing and advertising. That's what I did for the last 7 years in New York. Ben's a lawyer, great lawyer, civil rights attorney, representing Colin Kaepernick during the NFL collusion case. And Brett's this kick-ass editor, man. I mean, he's a 2-time Emmy award-winning digital editor, worked for the Big Three, worked for this basketball league.
Let me interrupt.
You're really sad. You're an underachieving family, clearly.
Actually, I was going to interrupt and ask you already. So is Ben as big a pain in the ass as I am? Because, by the way, I did not realize we both went to Georgetown for our law degrees. But I'm constantly telling Cliff after the show, you can't say that. And he's like, but it's my opinion. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's your opinion. Is he a lawyer or?
I'll answer your question. Is Ben as big of a pain in the ass as you think he is? The two of us are here.
I don't think he is. I didn't say that.
the two of us are here with you, and he's not.
There you go. There you go.
He's not here, so we should make fun of him, right?
Honestly, we don't get the opportunity to make fun of Ben enough because he's usually the older brother on our podcast with us, the MeidasTouch podcast, and with us. But I will say, having Ben as a lawyer is actually extremely helpful because we get to gut check all of our stuff off him without, and it helps us be efficient, and it helps us be efficient with donors' money and with the process. And it's one of the things that allows us to get videos out so fast also that we don't have to say, oh, send it to legal. Let's wait till we hear back. Ben just goes, yeah, that's good.
See, Cliff, see how good it is to have a lawyer?
No,
and this is what Brett does. Also,
now, do you guys
Brett's notorious for speaking over me here when I try and tell stories.
You guys,
I spoke over you too, but all right. Sorry,
you guys put all the money. I have a question though. Do you guys have all of the money go through one of your firms and then pay yourselves out each? I'm sorry.
Hey, watch out.
I'm stopping right now. Some of those guys are actually friends.
I know we shouldn't attack Ella. I still like them.
I do too. I couldn't help it. It was a joke. They have to.
All right, back to Jordy.
It's March. Quarantine hits. Ben can't go to court. I'm working remote at this time.
A year ago, we're talking now.
Yeah, a year ago. Yeah. This is the founding of MeidasTouch. Brett saw the writing on the wall that the basketball league he was working for probably wasn't going to happen due to COVID. And we were just home frustrated, like you pointed out. We were watching these Trump press conferences, these coronavirus press conferences, if you could call them that, where he would just straight up lie to the American people each day, and it was costing lives. We were so frustrated. We were in a brothers group chat, just basically texting into a void. It felt like just our frustrations. This isn't true because of this, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, hey, we all have this extra time on our hands now. What if we just used it to try and do something and actually make a difference? So MeidasTouch actually started as a blog where we would write about stories. I would write more sports-focused stories, how it was impacting the NBA and sports across the landscape. Brett, more the political expert of the group, and Ben as well, would focus their stories more on the politics of it all. And would actually try, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble, we would try and break Ben's cases from the site, knowing that he is a little bit of a celebrity attorney, just to get some clout.
A source says that, It's like, yeah, the source is you. The source is you, because it's your case.
They do that stuff in major newspapers all the damn time, so why not, right?
And then so Brett came to the table one day with this incredible video. We called it "Are You Better Off?" And what it did was it juxtaposed the famous Ronald Reagan debate speech where he was asking the American people, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment?" And Brett showed the footage of the food lines that were happening, the COVID death numbers spiking. We put that out on Twitter. Again, at this time, we're still a blog. The video blows up, goes viral for us. At the time, it got 200,000 views. We were ecstatic. If a video gets 200,000 views for us now, we're like, what did we do wrong?
Oh, that's funny.
And so we saw this, blow up and people started reaching out. We started to gain followers here and there. We're like, hey, I think we need to figure out ways to get this messaging seen by more people than just on Twitter. Let's get this on TV. How do we do that? Consulted with our network of people and ultimately concluded that the best way to do this was we have to become a PAC. And that's how MeidasTouch PAC was founded, which is actually like May 15th.
So wait, is it a super PAC or is it a?
Yeah, it's a super PAC.
That's what I thought. Okay,
an independent expenditure.
Yep.
But we were honestly, we didn't even know what that was. My only kind of experience was hearing about Citizens United and hearing about Stephen Colbert starting a PAC on his TV show that I used to watch. Like that was really the extent of my knowledge.
We Googled it. We Googled what is a PAC.
Yeah, super PACs for dummies.
How do I run a super PAC without going to jail?
Right.
Yeah, seriously, I was concerned because I was like,
you should be, yeah.
And you hear a lot of bad things about organizations like that, and you're like, okay. And so obviously this comes with a lot of also legal obligations and accounting obligations. How the hell do we do that? Like, we just didn't know. We didn't know anything, but we decided to go that route. We were lucky enough to have people step in and pitch in and help us out and support our work. And that allowed us to build the infrastructure that we needed very quickly to legally file all of our documents with the FEC and do all that. And, soon enough we were running ads on TV and running ground games in Georgia and doing all these things that were beyond our wildest dreams.
So that's what I wanted to ask beyond you, because you guys obviously went viral on Twitter. It was fantastic. I assume Facebook probably similar, or maybe, I don't know how much you were up on Facebook or not. But the key, what I wanted to ask is how much you put behind these ads in the States. You know what I mean? Like, how much did you do in terms of targeting folks and that kind of thing?
Well, actually, can I make it a broader question?
What's interesting?
What has been your goal? Has it been turning out votes? Has it been changing public opinion? Has it been motivating liberals? Has it been going after the middle?
I would say our main goal was really motivating our base to show up in an election where, we kind of looked at 2016 and noticed that we lost that election by not many votes. And it was because a lot of people had sat home who had previously voted for Democrats. And so, we came in this from a different lane than some other groups, as we're lifelong Democrats, we're liberals ourselves. And we didn't see messaging out there that was resonating with people. And, one of the criticisms that we've received early on and that we still receive occasionally is people say, are you guys simply preaching to the choir? And what does that mean for politics? And one of our kind of comments was, in a way, a lot of our stuff does preach to the choir, but we have the fundamental belief that our choir is the bigger choir than the other side. There are more of us than there are them. So if we could get our choir to sing louder than their choir, then we'll win every election every time, 100% of the time.
Especially in a country where 60% of people vote. Guess what? There's there's ample room to improve that, hopefully.
Yeah, and so that was kind of one of our.
Yeah.
Well, and clearly they know this, or they wouldn't try to suppress votes so much. So you're right. You're talking to a bigger. And people forget how important that is, right? Motivating people, because when Republicans are smacking us around, and sometimes, not naming names, but some Democrats come back with, let's call them not the strongest responses. Like, we want to see our side, stand up and hit back and show that. And I think you guys did that and did it.
We wanted. One of the phrases that Jordy kind of came up with early on is progressives punch back, and we wanted to be like, we could throw a punch too. We could land a punch too. We're not going to be like weak Democratic voices who are just going to sit there and let you say, "Oh, radical this, radical that." Like, we're going to be, like, "Fuck you."
Can I tell you really quick? One of the phrases I came up with early on for doing online advocacy that I do is we would call ourselves assholes for justice.
That's funny.
But it made me think. But it's like exactly the kind of thing. There's a bit of an assholeness to it that you've got to be, but at the same time, not. I mean, you guys are really fun. I've seen your videos before. I mean, just what I mean is your interviews. You actually. There's a nice camaraderie, but also just a nice funness to what you guys do. It's not like you're a bunch of really sort of angry old men. We're so pissed off.
Well, it has to be fun, but it also, you can't take any shit. I mean, I hate to say it. Like, we have to hit back. And, sometimes Democrats, I'm not saying we have to be as terrible as they are. And I'm talking legally and other ways. But when it comes to like the messaging, we can't sit there, as you said, and let them call us all these names and make up all this shit. And
you got to be nicer.
Right. I can't stand it.
And in fact, when we started making these videos, people originally thought we were Republicans.
Why?
So that just goes to show, because they were these hard-hitting pieces that Democrats weren't used to seeing.
Oh, you mean sort of some more like Lincoln Project, things like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A lot of people thought, they're never Trumpers. I was like, technically I'm a never Trumper.
Yes, never Trump, but also other stuff.
But not in the way that you're, not in the way you're saying
interesting.
it. But it took actually a while to kind of dispel that notion that we were not Republicans.
No, we're just very good at what we do.
It's like, no, just because, and we were like, that's kind of sick. No, it's kind of sick that like, because our ads are hard hitting. The Democrats can't be making them. Like that's the impression that people have out there. And it was a weird thing. And sorry, Jordy, did I cut you off again? Are you
I'm sure you did.
Was Jordy even talking? I'm like, all of us have been on a tangent now.
But let me just go back though too, because other than what Brett said about our choir singing louder, right? I think MeidasTouch, it does kind of everything though that you described. We are trying to change opinions, right? But look, we're not going to change an opinion. Someone's not going to watch a 30-second video that we make and be like, oh, I'm a Democrat. I hate Trump now. But we have this thing. It's an always on approach. We've made over 350, close to 400 videos during the cycle up until now that just constantly belabor the point. Trumpism is bad. Donald Trump is bad. The GQP doesn't like you. They don't like Americans. They care about their donors. And we just hammer that every single day.
But with great creative, I would add, which is so important.
I appreciate that.
You know, because if you make, even if your message is great, if what you're showing people is not, like it's that mixture that you guys find. And I think that you had the free reign to go out and be as tough as you could be. Like that, we needed that, right? Like I've often wanted to be tougher. You know, as I said, I've done stuff for campaigns. I get why sometimes if you're tied to a candidate, particularly, you know, in this presidential race, when your candidate's saying we need unity, we need this and that, you know, they let us go further than some campaigns have in the past. And we were able to do a little bit more hitting Trump because of who he is. But still, like, you know, there are different lanes and you guys jumped in that lane and it was really needed.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of the biggest decisions that we made going on. Originally, we were almost recruited by certain people to make videos for them before we officially became a PAC. The biggest thing for us is like we always wanted ownership of MeidasTouch. We never wanted to have to answer to somebody because to your point exactly, we'd be scared that the message could get diluted. We never try and be anything, you know, that we're not. We've come in this as political outsiders. I like to say now that, you know, we've sharpened our tools a little bit in the politics game and have a little bit more knowledge than when we started, but we never pretended to be experts in the field. We were just fed up brothers that wanted to figure out a way to stop what the madness that was going on.
Now, how does that change now that Trump he's not gone, but Democrats control the White House. Democrats control the Congress. I know historically doing political activism, it's a lot different usually when your party takes over because all of a sudden now, for example, how are you going to deal with putting pressure on Manchin is easy. Senator Manchin, right? He's a dick. He's easy to go after. People like that.
We were talking about him on our pod the other day too.
Well, no, but it's also easy to go after. I was intrigued by how many people were like, yes, right? But over the years, I've found it can be very difficult sometimes. Barack Obama, we had to push him really hard on gay rights, LGBT rights, because they kind of wanted to put it off for a year or two. And we kept saying, we're going to lose the fucking Congress. We got to do it now. And a lot of the base got pissed at people like me because we were pushing him. How are you going to juggle or pivot now that sometimes will you have to pressure Joe Biden maybe, or good Democrats in Congress?
I think no doubt about it. I think we got to keep the pressure up on Democrats to do the right thing. And if not for, I mean, for selfish reasons, right? Like there's things that we want to see passed. There's things that voters want to see passed. And there's reasons why people went out to the polls aside from hating Trump. And if we don't deliver on our promises, who knows what's going to happen in 2022 and 2024. Right. So selfishly, we should all want to push Joe Biden to make sure that he's, you know, accomplishing what he set out to do. And I think he's doing a great job so far. In that same sense, I think we need to understand that politics is complex and he's not a king and he can't snap his fingers and make everything happen automatically, that there's processes. There are the Joe Manchins of the world. There is a Congress and a Senate. There is a process by which you need to pass legislation. And I think that frustrates people, but I think that's why you need to sort of take, you know, every small win and build upon it and understand the bigger picture here. And I think one of the bigger pictures is that we actually have, it's terrifying, but we have one party in the country that is fundamentally anti-democracy at this point. And I wish I were exaggerating that fact, but someone said this on our podcast. They're like one of like the far right authoritarian parties in Europe, like the GOP right now.
Yeah.
And that's a smaller faction that only has like 25-30%. Instead, they control one of our two. I know,
which is horrifying. And the thing that always scares me is that Democrats and just Americans in general seem to have short-term memories with elections. Like, you know, Obama wins and then it's a new Congress 2 years later and it shifts it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it always sucks, but that's okay. if the other party believes in democracy and
Right.
you know, we're arguing based on policy, it's not okay if the other party is going to get in power and then start passing legislation to curtail voting rights and repeal civil rights and try to institute
Stack the judiciary so that we can never take power again.
So that's what kind of drives me right now and kind of strikes fear into me. And that's why, you know, I think we need to walk a line of holding the Democrats accountable and holding Joe Biden accountable to accomplish what he does,
100%.
but not lose sight of the fact that we're dealing with an existential crisis here with a party in the Republicans who don't believe in democracy.
Right. Well, and as you said, I think it's almost a situation we are all in as maybe Democratic mouthpieces or liberal mouthpieces, whatever we call ourselves. But to have to sort of walk our own fine line with our own grassroots, explaining to them that Biden can't do everything because of the Manchin problem. You know, that, I mean, this is what happens. You're in the majority, but by one seat. This is what, you know, what's really interesting. I'm going to go on a tangent here. What's really interesting is Manchin shows what Republicans could have done to Donald Trump if they wanted to.
Yep.
Remember how it was
exactly
like,
right.
Remember how it was like, oh, well, you know, they
brilliant.
speak out, but what can they do? His base, what they can do is one man or woman in the Senate can fuck you so hard, it's not even funny. And
Well, and
Manchin is
especially
showing
when
it.
it's that close. I mean, there's two words for that, John.
But they were close, yeah.
Right, that we lived through. These guys, you guys may have been paying attention back then, maybe not, I don't know, but Jim Jeffords is the two words, you know? I mean, when he was in the Senate and George W. Bush won,
Liberal Republican,
too hard.
liberal Republican senator from Vermont. Yeah.
When those things used to exist, when there were actual moderate and liberal Republicans, and he left and he gave Democrats the majority.
Yeah, and switched it to our side. Amazing.
He showed what one senator can do, you know, and I don't mean to go through all the history, but I'll say quickly, the fact that it's only Manchin and Sinema at this point is incredible, because usually as Democrats, we have 8 to 10 of these folks, right? When we used to have more senators from like North Dakota, you know, and all these other places.
Joe Lieberman times 10.
Joe Lieberman, who was just a pain in the ass for the sake of being a pain in the ass. And I mean,
believe that guy was a vice presidential candidate for him.
Trust me, it still hurts.
Every time I think about that, I'm like, ugh.
So it used to be, so the fact, and this is important, and when we're talking about like taking our guys on when we need to, but also amplifying the good. What I think we see, there are people that just are in bad faith on the far left, and I'm not going to go into who they are.
Right.
But then there's folks who, you know, who I think need to be educated, which is,
come on, say it, Glenn Greenwald.
David Sirota, Bree, you know, that whole fucking crowd. You know, they're just doing it for their demagoguery to raise their numbers so more people watch their shitty podcasts. I digress. The key here is that what people don't get is what Biden just accomplished with only 50 senators, right? And a bare minimum in the House, passing $1.9 trillion seems like what most people don't understand. Obama's went all the way down to what, John, 700 billion or something?
Ish.
It's unprecedented. Like we're talking about now, it's up there with Obamacare in 2010. It was the two biggest social programs that have been passed.
It's also
LBJ.
one of the most. It's also one of the most popular. It's also one of the most popular pieces of legislation in like 30 or 40 years
ever. Yeah.
I mean,
and zero Republicans voted for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think one of the things to like, I think the $15 minimum wage fight is an example of this sort of battle of holding Biden accountable and holding the Democrats accountable while also acknowledging the incredible victories that we had. Like, okay, we didn't get the $15 minimum wage. I am as pissed off as anybody that we couldn't get that through. Right. But does that mean like we give up and we say Biden didn't deliver on his promise? I mean, that was an add-on to the bill that would have been fantastic. It would have been amazing, and it would have changed millions of lives. But like you said, this is a $1.9 trillion plan. They're not holding it up now to try to go to the courts or try to, get this policy in there that would be dead anyway, because they're not going to get 60 votes on it at this point.
Right.
And checks are going out to people. Right. State and local aid is going out to people. Vaccines are being funded. Schools are being look at the big picture here, and then let's figure out our next fight and how we're going to get 15. But don't say, oh, I voted for Democrats and they can't even do $15. Right. I'm like, most of the Democrats do want to get this passed.
Right. And, it is amazing, and that's the thing. You put it perfectly. Now, you can be pissed at Sinema for her curtsy or, whatever, the other ones who voted against it, while still saying what happened with the $1.9 trillion package is incredible. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, it is something we do on our side. And again, I think it's one of those 50-50 things where sometimes people are wrong, sometimes they're right. Sometimes people are right that we don't try hard enough. right? That they're like, yeah, Obamacare, my God. I think we all kind of felt back then like we could have gone further. I'm very glad with Obamacare. It helps me every day. I've got Obamacare, thank God. But we felt like, he could have pushed a little harder, whatever. But
Lieberman.
But again, and Lieberman did screw us on that, right? We would have gotten Medicare for all age 55 and up or whatever it was without Lieberman.
That's what it was.
But I think sometimes I get worried, like in the primaries, I kept saying, we're yelling at each other and screaming at each other over competing medical proposals, none of which are ever going to pass for the next couple of years because we're not going to control enough seats in Congress. But let's all hate each other and tear each other down because I want Medicare for all. I want Medicare for this. I want Medicare for that. And I'm going, guys, or Green New Deal. No, if it's not Green New Deal, then nothing's good enough. And I'm like, guys, no, like we should be going after the idiots who don't want to do anything significant on climate. Not, well, if it's not my idea exactly, well, then you're just a liberal, neocon, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Neoliberal.
Neoliberal, I'm sure that's
like.
That's when I stopped paying attention. When that comes out of their mouths, I'm like, all right.
Once there are certain trigger words that you're like, oh, I'm out. And then the other side's like, Dr. Seuss, voting rights. And you're like,
Potato Head.
You're like, shut up. Like, let's be serious people here.
So, I mean, I think overall, it's so far going pretty well. And you find the ways to accentuate the positive. And we got to hit them a little bit,
By the way, I watched yesterday. I was doing research for another video that we're doing, and I saw an interview with people from the Biden administration from before Joe Biden was inaugurated. It was I think early January, and he was talking about what became the American Rescue Plan that he was proposing. Right. And even though it was before he was inaugurated, it was $1.9 trillion. So like you said, Cliff, it did not go down a cent from what he proposed then. Right. The anchor, I forget what channel it was on, asked, is the $2,000 a new $2,000 check, or are you talking $1,400 in addition to the $600? They said on that show, we're talking $1,400 in addition to the $600. I see a lot of criticism about it, but I'm like, they said it right there on the. I mean, it was right there in the show. They said it, and so it frustrates me when you see people, criticize and say, oh, Biden and Trump are the same. And I'm like, how do you say that with a straight face? I don't know.
After the last 4 years.
Again, that's like the neoliberal thing. When somebody says, oh, they're the same, but then I stop listening. I'm like, you're not a serious person.
No, you're not a serious human being.
So if I can just say, since Jordy hasn't really spoken lately, I was supposed to ask you something about a viral image going around of you with a purse.
Oh, Brett, did you set this up?
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
No,
I did not.
Obviously,
this is not my doing. I think Ben might be working the refs behind.
I can't name names because Adam would be really pissed at me if I
know. It rhymes with Harkalenko. Tell you who.
I don't want to say anything, but
it's a fantastic image. I own it. I love it.
Actually, we say fabulous, just so you know. It's a fabulous image.
Fabulous.
There you go. Good job.
It's not my purse. It's my fiance's.
No, I'm kidding. What actually is it about?
I was happy to hold it. It was my fiance's. Long story short, you really...
Oh, she actually had you hold it. Oh.
You really have to understand the torture that Brett's put me through my entire life. And Brett's a big foodie. I went to go visit him in California with my fiance a few years back, pre-pandemic. Right. It's totally surreal. And Brett's like, we got to go to this dim sum place. Never had dim sum. Brett's like, it's the best. We got to go. And when Brett gets something in it, when Brett gets something in his mind, we're doing it. No use arguing. Long story short, we get there. It's like 8 p.m. They're like, yeah, it's going to be like 4 hours. It's like midnight. Don't you guys
It's a bit of an exaggeration.
Okay, but 3 hours, maybe 11. And so Brett's like, all right. And like didn't consult the group. I'm with my fiance, who's my recent girlfriend at the time. Right. We were just like 2 weeks in. She's furious. She's like, why are you waiting here? I don't understand. She gives me her purse like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, into it. We're just sitting down. The maitre d' comes over to us and she's like, okay, your table's ready. This is now like 11:15. Yeah. But you only have 20 minutes to order and eat, then you have to leave.
I'd be pissed.
And my fiance, my new girlfriend at the time, looks at me, hands me the purse, walks out of the restaurant. And I just, and it was right then when Brett snapped the photo of me. And I'm just thinking to myself in that moment, man, if I get broken up with over some dim sum, it's going to be a really awkward 6-hour flight back to Ohio.
I'd be pretty pissed though. I'm with her though. I get the hangry thing.
I don't blame her either. It was her first introduction to Brett.
To the family. Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family.
But Jordy, the dim sum, Pretty good.
Yeah, it was great. The 20 minutes we had to shove it in our faces and leave the restaurant.
Soup
Never had
dumplings.
dim sum out in the Island?
Dumplings.
No,
XLB.
never had it out on Long Island. And then I went to school in Ohio, so they definitely didn't have it there.
Where'd you go?
Ohio State, or I should say the
cool.
Ohio State University, because I'll get
the.
I was-
You
Yeah,
should say that. Well, I'm in Cincinnati, so I know.
Oh, there you go.
I know the Ohio State well. I've been up there. Good stuff.
Can I tell you something funny about us being in different cities and things like that?
Yep.
I've not seen Jordy since we've started MeidasTouch in person in over a year. I've not seen Ben, and Ben lived in Los Angeles with me in over a year.
Because of COVID, or you guys just don't like each other?
Hate each other.
A combination of
both.
two. No, because of COVID. I haven't seen him once. Since
Brett, I'll give you one better. It's actually coming up on 2 years. Now it's
For
way
you?
worse for a lot of
Uh-oh.
other people. Yeah, with me and you and me seeing Ben. We had a trip planned, and then I had a work trip, and I was doing my marketing thing, and I
I'll
just
tell
never
you,
made it to you.
COVID changed my year, as it did everybody's year, drastically, and in a lot of ways, oddly. I'm fortunate that it changed it for the better, but my year would have been extremely different.
But now that Jordy's in Pittsburgh, everyone's going to be visiting.
Oh yeah, it's like neutral ground.
Just kidding, Pittsburgh. Just kidding.
Oh,
Actually,
God.
no, people like Pittsburgh.
It's the best. Pittsburgh.
No, I'm
is
serious.
great.
I've heard
You get
I've
everything.
never
You get-
been. People
you
love
get
it.
City, you get rural.
People like beautiful homes, by the way.
That's the
too,
one thing
I'm
I
told.
feel
Yeah.
about Cincinnati. Like you've got these cool cities that have history to them that have been able to kind of, do some upgrades. I went to Pittsburgh. It reminded me of here. We saw Springsteen there actually a couple of years
that's
ago.
cool.
And it's
That
a
was
great sports
fantastic.
And affordable homes, which
That's what I mean. We can live in I could never live back. I lived went to college in Philly, lived in New York and DC. I could never grew up in New York, lived in DC. I could never live in any of those three places for what I have here.
I mean, Cliff, could you imagine having that display case like in New York City that Jordy's got?
I gotta say, I'm not. This
That's
is
like the
not
size of a New York apartment.
It is. I know.
This is not
I lived
my
in that
place.
Oh,
display case.
okay.
This is
Yeah, actually, I was
not
going to say
place.
the Yadro behind there. I was like, Jordy collects Yadro. How cute.
Jordy's
Was it
currently
the job
living.
that took you to Pittsburgh, or was it?
No,
the
so my
girl.
fiance is actually from here originally,
Okay.
and when COVID started to go down, we wanted
Jordy's
to stay
been
here,
living-
stay close to her family.
Jordy's been
Makes sense.
living with her family for the past year. I don't know how he does it.
That is
Literally
impressive.
He's living
That
in
is.
He's living in her parents' house.
Actually, that is
Wow.
impressive. Wow.
Been a
Yeah, I ended
blast.
up in Cincinnati because of my wife. So those Midwestern ladies, they get you here.
Oh, and by the way, Pittsburgh. If you say Pittsburgh's in the Midwest, they don't like that.
I know they want to be
Really?
Atlantic.
What,
want to
they
be
think
Atlantic.
they're East Coast?
But to me, yes.
Yeah.
But to me, here's the line in the sand. If you
Yeah.
call soda pop or sneakers tennis shoes,
Thank you.
you're Midwest.
My wife and I have the
Is that
whole
what they call it
battle
there?
over sneakers and tennis
Yep.
shoes all the time. There's also lightning bugs and fireflies.
Oh, yeah, lightning bugs. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way,
definitely
Midwest, we actually say gym shoes, just so you know.
Oh.
Oh, actually, very much so. Everything's a gym shoe to me.
They say gym shoes. They also say tennis shoes out here. I grew up with sneakers, man.
Sneakers, I've heard, and we understand what it is, but you absolutely say gym
I
shoes
like
for
these.
everything.
I like these Meiselas guys.
And
They're-
you guys have
they
like-
get it, man.
But you East Coast people have like different shoes for everything, right? Like there's a difference
Yeah,
between
you got basketball
sneakers
sneakers.
Yeah.
like all the weird, they're gym shoes. But yeah.
If you
if
go
you're
a little
saying-
south from here to Kentucky, everything is Coke.
Oh yeah.
All types of soda.
Yeah. What
Like
kind
they'll
of
say,
Coke
like
do
I
you-
want like
Yeah.
light Coke, and that's like 7-Up. Or I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Well, no, I've been
That's why
restaurants where
they
they say
like
what,
McConnell.
well,
I'm
they'll
just
say
kidding,
what-
guys.
what
No,
kind-
Kentuckians, we love you.
but I've been to restaurants where they say, "What kind of Coke do you want?" Which I always thought was great.
Right.
Hmm.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
But Jordy nailed it with pop.
Don't
Pop
don't
is the
get New
one
York
thing-
on me, Jordy. That was a little
Jordy, I can't-
that was a little judgmental.
I can't say pop.
Judge-free zone. Judge-free
That was,
zone.
it was like,
Even like the lightning bugs and the tennis shoes, I can't get with pop. I can't
hey,
say
and then
that.
and someday when there's not four of us competing on camera, I'll tell you my black cow story when I went to a restaurant in Georgetown when I first moved here.
I'm scared to hear.
See,
what
look at none of you know what a black cow is, do you?
No
I have
idea.
no idea.
Like
I've never
zero
heard-
idea.
Ice cream with an ice cream float with either root beer or Coke. It depends. One's a black cow, one's a brown cow. And,
Where is this from? Chicago or DC?
Chicago, Midwest. And I ordered one, and the woman goes, it was this whole thing where I was like, oh, you can make like a black cow. What do you mean? Well, like, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, oh, you mean like did you say a soda or something? And I said, oh, yeah, soda's okay. I like a soda. No, I said like a soda. And she goes, oh, you mean like a Coke? I said, oh, Coke would be okay, I guess. So we're getting into this whole who's on first thing of, I'm thinking she's saying, do you just want a Coke instead? And she's saying a soda, meaning a float, I guess. It was, but anyway, yeah, black cow, brown cow, very
That's
Midwest.
hilarious.
And last one, Jimmy's versus Sprinkles.
There you go.
Call
Tim.
them Jimmy's
Nice.
Midwest.
Jimmy's. Oh, that's funny. You mean the chocolate? We call them ants. Chocolate ants, you mean, or what?
Oh my God.
I don't know where you've gotten this vernacular, this verbiage from, but
He's from Chicago.
I'm
Everything's
Chicago,
fucked
that's
up
what we
there,
said.
dude.
That's
Chicago's not even like the rest of the
You
Midwest.
picked
It's
just
its
like the
own
most
beast.
unappealing thing that you would want to eat.
I know.
on your
But
ice cream.
is that what Jimmy's
Would you
are?
like the
little chocolate
Oreo
things?
chunks, or as we call them, cockroaches on there? You do
Yeah,
that too?
as we call them cockroach. As we call them the little feces you put on top.
Exactly. Do you like the hemorrhagic fever on there?
Pittsburgh,
No.
we call them-
Or we can call
all
it
right, watch
Oreos,
it.
dude.
Watch it. So back to substance. What else? So what is coming up in the next year? I mean, since, as I said, I was sort of getting to that conversation with, you may have to pivot a bit, although do you? I mean, Trump really hasn't risen his sordid head too much yet, but I suspect he's gonna.
We're gonna keep battling Trump and Trumpism, more focused on Trumpism right now. Where the GQP is heading is obviously a danger to democracy.
And GQP for GQAnon P is what you mean, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's how we for the GOP.
Good.
Sorry, it's just something that.
I know I do too, but people know what we're.
Well, aren't you loving though right now? If you really want to stick the knife in, and maybe this is an idea for your video you already have, so whatever. But just Trump sending that letter to the RNC demanding all the money. I mean, you could just go after the other Republicans.
Tell people what happened, Cliff. Tell
So
people what happened,
basically,
Cliff. Yeah.
Donald Trump, I mean, in the most obvious Donald Trump type move ever. I mean, it's so Donald Trump. I don't think it's more.
It's so dicky.
He's such an. I mean, Lindsey Graham could not have gotten it more right back in 2016 when he's like, "This guy will destroy us. He's a con man," and then they went ahead with all of it and decided to join with him. And so now he's not only like, demanding that they not use his image, which they originally were doing. They being the Republican National Committee, Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, Republican Congressional Campaign Committee. But he's going out there and attacking them all and saying that all the money should go to him. So I'm not pushing you guys, but if you wanted to make an ad mocking those committees and laughing at them for how much money they will now not get.
It's amazing.
Funny. I almost pitched a similar idea to the brothers last night and kind of fell asleep and forgot, but it was going to be something like an infomercial to donate to Donald Trump.
Right. And you get to mock Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and all of them along the way, like, oh, do you want this money?
We might have to workshop this one, Brett. This is pretty good.
This is pretty good. It's funny.
I want to make a video with you guys at some point, so we got to talk.
I love it. We'll figure it out.
I don't want any money. I just want to have a good time. That's all.
And so, Brett, before you dive into it too, I think what we're going to be doing too, we have a university program. What the Republicans do really well, unfortunately, is they recruit very young. Right? They get the Charlie Kirks, Candace Owens, the Christian Walkers at a young age, making the TikToks, making these videos to recruit more kids sort of like-minded like that. And they're lying to them. What we're trying to do is advance this pro-democracy movement. We now have 24 Meidas University chapters set up across the nation. We're trying to continue to grow that to be everywhere. And if you check, the handles, it would be Meidas_UPitt, Meidas_UASU, stuff like that. And it's just being able to amplify the voices of progressives and really Democrats and pro-democracy for the next generation who may not have a platform to be able to do it.
Now, what kind of stuff do you want them? Wait, real quick, but what kind of stuff do you want them doing at universities? What kind of stuff can these guys organize?
So right now, it's difficult with COVID. Ideally, we want them to start, full-on chapters at their school where it's more than just maybe the 5 or 6 people who are help running the account at the moment, and really, bring speakers to their attention. If there's a cause specific to the local, community where they are, push the democratic values of that. And we're here at MeidasTouch are ready to be able to help fund them and give them the opportunity to do things that, their school might not allow. A lot of, talking to these kids, what I've learned is, they're part of their local Democratic chapter, but they don't really have much license to do much, right? Because it's always got to filter up to, for lack of a better word, some old white. Yeah, exactly. Some person who makes that final call who's kind of out of touch. What I think we do a good job of is we're kind of close to their age demo, and we understand, that they're passionate about this. Now we give a rigorous interview to make sure that, they're truthful and want to push pro-democracy movements. And so just that, right? We're here to help the next generation of progressive voices to amplify their voices, get them out there.
So now we should definitely, at some point off air, we should talk, because I was just talking the other day to a client of mine, and they raised a decent amount of funds on trying to fight back against the right-wing noise machine. And obviously a big concern now is all that Prager University bullshit, because they're getting to kids and they're indoctrinating them. And you guys are already at 24 places, you said?
We're at 24 chapters, and we have a high school chapter called Meidas Varsity Blue, which like encompasses like 16 or 17 other high school schools. But
is it like Varsity Blues, that movie?
Yeah.
Do you guys have like what do you call them, jackets and the things you can wear, like little what do we call them?
It's a good idea.
What is the Big M? It wasn't think you're Michigan, but yeah.
I know you guys I know you guys are good at raising funds, but I'm assuming you probably wouldn't reject more funds. So we should talk, because this client was looking for things. And if you guys have the stuff you can show me, I mean, they really want to do something to counter that stuff.
That's amazing.
That would be great. And we're working on stuff also, in addition to the PAC, which is our main focus, because we think it's the most important work we do. But in addition to the PAC, one of the things we're also building is the Meidas Media Network, which is where our podcast, the MeidasTouch podcast, runs, and which is where our other content runs, and where we're going to run, TV shows that we're pitching and documentaries that we're pitching and things like that. And I mean, the reason why we think that's important is because we see this right-wing ecosystem like you're talking about with the PragerUs, and it gets much darker than that, obviously.
Federalist Society and all that.
Federalist Society.
Well, at universities, right? They're indoctrinating in law schools.
And we want to, build the media that's working to advance our ideals and is doing that for, I think that helps the Republican Party be always on. I mean,
it's interesting because go on. Sorry, we're echoing. You go first.
I was going to say, I saw Fox News the other day ran a package like that was just like a North Korea style package glorifying Ron DeSantis. It's like they're already trying to elevate their candidates through their media, which they purport to be real news, even though it's not. And so the Republican Party has this whole arm that's just a propaganda arm that's doing all its work for them, not nonstop, and we need something to combat that.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
go ahead, John.
We talk about that a lot on our show because it's it is so damn complicated. But we were actually a couple weeks ago, Cliff, we were getting to the whole sort of MSNBC versus Fox News debate, and how Fox News. Forget the fact that Republicans now think Fox News is too liberal or whatever, but Fox News is so in bed with them where, like you just said, all of these up and coming young people, Fox makes sure they get them. They put them on TV. Somebody else makes sure they get a Ranieri, make sure they get a book deal. Then Fox puts them on again. And MSNBC, God love it, MSNBC has never been part of the machine. They're not. No. They're independent.
They saw that Rachel Maddow and before that Keith Olbermann sold and got them ads, and that's all it's about. It's a business decision that there needs to be something, but it's a corporate thing. It's also not the same thing.
Well, no, but it's also, what I mean by that is, obviously Rachel does good work, but it's in a silo. It's not like Rachel's part of the grand left-wing conspiracy, whereas all those motherfuckers on Fox are absolutely part of the right-wing conspiracy.
My point wasn't, John, we need a little more. Just to be clear, my point wasn't that she didn't. I just want to say quickly, so it's clear. My point wasn't that she doesn't do good work. It's that she gets to do that work because MSNBC has a business model.
Oh, gotcha. Good
ads. Fox, even if they're losing money on somebody like Tucker Carlson's not getting any damn ads anymore. There have been so many people boycotting him, but they're about ideology because in the end it sells deregulation and tax cuts and whatever. So they'll still put that person on. That's my point.
And we're not seeing Maddow let me just say this. We're not seeing Maddow at fucking Biden rallies next to Joe Biden.
Exactly.
Like we see Hannity next to Trump. Trump. I mean, that's a sick
She's liberal, but she's still a journalist. Those guys are propagandists. That's the difference.
But I'm jealous. Go on, Jordy. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. And John, what you were saying, I think it's like Fox has cultivated this bizarro Marvel universe. If you would, right? How they bring up these characters in different ways.
Oh, that's really funny.
Shows and platforms.
Yeah, you're right.
To make them household names.
Yeah.
So that just reminded me of that.
But they do that, and we don't. And I mean, again, Cliff and I are a little older. We can tell you, like with the blogs in the 2000s, the same thing. Nobody fucking supported us. Nobody. I mean, the grassroots did. But like of the party and the apparatus, even the activist apparatus, like the big guys
John
with money.
made a name for himself with probably one of the 4 or 5 most popular blogs. On the left, that was getting 100, 200,000 people a day.
It was insane. Yeah, the traffic was insane back then.
And I had this sort of period of time where, this is pre-Twitter and Facebook, but this period of time where I have the philosophy you guys have, where I was going on MSNBC, and a few of these things are still out there, where I'd go on and I'd debate a conservative and just rip the living shit out of them because I wasn't going to be like, I'm not trying to grab shit. I'm not a nice little liberal. I can't play a nice little liberal. I'd go on and just just take them apart.
Yeah.
And of course they get offended and was like, you're not supposed to behave that way. And, you know, and I got banned for a while for that. Like,
and there's no other outlets. No, there's a whole larger question. And I'm going to keep hitting on this point. And again, Cliff and I've been hitting on it for decades at this point, but we don't. It's like, okay, Facebook, right? That the top 10 things on Facebook are always those same fucking idiots, Ben Shapiro and all the rest of them, right? And
I like that.
It sounds like he just sucked on fucking helium.
Ben Shapiro, Don Bongino, cute explosion. Ben Shapiro.
Right.
It's always like what cute cat videos.
Yeah.
And you know somebody's manipulating something when Ben Shapiro, who's the size of my left foot, it sounds like he just sucked on a fucking, Zeppelin balloon for like 4 hours. I'm sorry, that's not a natural, charismatic
Meghan Markle, clearly a liar. No one talks about that. You're like, shut the fuck up, Ben Shapiro.
I mean, did you see Charlie Kirk went after Harry? Harry is too metrosexual and all this. I'm like, dude, okay, let me speak on behalf of the ladies.
Yeah.
Harry's fucking hot, and Harry was fucking military when what the fuck did, I mean, and Charlie Kirk is so fucking ugly, it's not even funny. I mean, I can speak to
the pinnacle, of masculinity, Charlie Kirk.
Versus
in that
Prince
movie,
fucking Harry.
In the King Kong versus Godzilla movie that's coming out, the third monster attacker is going to be Charlie Kirk's gums. They're going to come in.
But
I think that's what I've heard. Anyhow.
But he, to get us back to the discussion, but he succeeds and they reinforce him. And you know what, too? They have him at all the conferences. CPAC embraces these people. We don't have anything that
they give him an endowed chair at like.
You don't have that infrastructure.
But it's also the pseudo. They get Fox to pay him. They get, I know because I was paid to go on air at Sinclair in 2004. Oh, wow. As the liberal debating. I talked about this on the show before, but I think it's important to just debating conservatives. And it was all these right wingers, and me and I got to see behind the scenes of the propaganda. I actually wrote a piece to the New York Times on it, and like we don't do anything like that. We just do nothing, and they just have this pipeline of people coming up. It drives. I don't care personally because John and I have found a way to make it work, I make a good living. I'm not complaining, but all sorts of people on the left who were really talented have just had to leave and go get corporate jobs.
Well, no, but also
be supported. We've lost so much talent.
And let me one more idea, but then I'll throw it to you guys because you were both trying to talk. Something as simple as, actually, the other day I did this with a friend of mine. We've got about the same size Twitter followers. I started a Substack recently. He did too. And I wrote it privately and said, do you want to just promote each other's Substack? Like our next article, throw it on the bottom, and let's just both tweet it. And we both got about the same number of Twitter followers, so it's not like it's unfair or something. And he was like, sure. But we don't. How about we all, I was actually looking, like some of you at least have got around, I've got 100,000 some Twitter followers. One of you is pretty close to me, at least one that I looked, maybe it was Brett. But even there, we don't fucking even support each other to grow each other's Twitter followers. Like imagine what we could do if just this collaboration of trying to grow each other. And with the blogs, we never did it either. I remember mentioning to the blogs back then, I'd say, let's link to each other a couple times a week just to help promote stuff. Oh, our people already see your readers read my stuff. I'm like, dude, every fucking time you link to me, I get 5,000 more people in an hour. Trust me, not everybody sees everything. We don't, this is a liberal thing, I think. We don't, ironically, we're very kumbaya, but we don't act very kumbaya in terms of how we work together. Now throw it to you.
Spot on. You're so spot on. And that infrastructure, for the Democrats, it just isn't there. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, though, with the Meidas Media Network and MeidasTouch and the Meidas University program. Like those students, if they wanted to write something for the website, we would put it up there, promote it just like that. We're trying to recruit talented people. We're working with one amazing woman. Her name's Heather Gardner on a YouTube series for the Meidas Media Network. It's like a daily show style. It's called Divided States of America. And it's exactly that. That infrastructure that you're talking about, that the right does so well, it doesn't really exist, or it didn't exist until we started sort of doing this. There's so much room and potential for us.
Who's the singer woman you have who's just insanely, wasn't it you? Didn't you guys do? Yeah. Wait, is she your guys, or were you just sharing her stuff?
Are you talking about Missy?
The one who did, I think she's the one who did the Pisaki bomb, but she did some other one.
So that's Missy.
But is she working with you guys or no? She's amazing.
Yeah, she's working with us. Missy's fantastic, and she does have a ridiculously good voice. And she always does these parodies, like she'll do Britney Spears parodies and all across the board, various parodies, and she always manages to sound just like them too. She's not only a good singer, but she's also a good singer impersonator in these songs, and she does a really good job. She makes videos. Some of them are 30 seconds. Some of them could be like a minute and a half, 2 minutes long. Just a super talent. A friend had connected me with Missy a couple months ago.
Say her full name again, just because we were talking over each other. Missy.
Her name is Missy Modell.
Okay, thanks.
Oh my God, she even has an alliterative name. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, Cliff, her voice is so strong, and oh my God,
I haven't seen it. I'll have to go listen. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, she's really good. But I would say what I was going to say before is that these, like you said, when you see like Charlie Kirk at the conference and then on TV and this whole ecosystem, it creates this sort of phony intellectualism around these people. And we look at these people and we're like, I mean, this guy's an idiot. Right. But people look to them as intellectual voices in the party. And they kind of reaffirm that across the board. And what I've noticed too is that, it's easy for us as liberals, as Democrats, to dunk on conservatives on social media and say, oh, they're clowns. Look what they're saying. It's so stupid. But they do a really good job at recruiting and speaking to their people on social media. And even you don't have to go to the dregs of the internet like Parler and 4chan and all these sites to see it. I mean, there's a account on TikTok, which I don't even necessarily want to advertise, but there's a Republican fan account basically on TikTok that has like 1.2 million followers.
Jesus.
And their content is really, it's young kids. It's a lot of it is extremely racist and transphobic and, all cultural issues, sort of stuff like that.
Dr. Seuss.
Very, very, very trolly. Like the whole sort of through line is like young kids like trying to troll liberals or Black Lives Matter and things like that. And they have like 1.2 million followers, and that's on TikTok alone.
That's why we made a conservative decision right away to be on all platforms. So we made a TikTok, we made Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Obviously, you can find us everywhere because the more you can amplify that voice, you're speaking to different audiences, right?
Yeah, on LinkedIn,
definitely an older audience.
Are you on Shopify?
We have a store, but it's not via Shopify.
But I'm kidding.
Here's the crazy thing:
when
we went on TikTok, we were the only Democratic Power PAC, I should say, that was on TikTok.
That's interesting.
There was no other, and I actually don't think there are many Republican PACs on TikTok either.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, TikTok, but imagine quick TikTok videos. I've got a friend who he's a lawyer here in town, and I think he spends his day on TikTok because he's always going, okay, check this one out. It's another 10 or 15-second video, and they really are fun. But imagine 10 or 15-second political videos, which I'm not even sure what you do. Actually, you probably take each the kind of blow up you do a bigger video for, but how would you do 15 seconds? But there's going to be something there you can do. Maybe you're already doing it.
Look at we have a fantastic woman in our college program, Emma Silverman, who does these incredible 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds videos where it's very much in that tone, and it's really special and unique, and it's something that's not being seen. I think you would love it.
So Emma, the first video we connected with a few months ago, and the first video we posted on her, basically she just debunks kind of Republican talking points and things. For the very first video we post of her gets like 1.2 million views on Twitter.
I may have seen,
goes crazy
I have
viral.
seen her.
Oh, wow.
You probably have.
I have seen her.
All the media in the world is reaching out to us, and Chris Cuomo actually invited her to be on his show that night. It ended up getting bumped because Trump ended up doing something insane.
It was like every other day.
So it's like every other day. But like literally until like an hour before, like she was all like scheduled to go on, and it just blew up so quickly. Yeah. But I think that's interesting. What she does, I think it's part of the important thing is she speaks the TikTok language. Like there's a way to make videos. It's not necessarily a political ad, and a lot of what we put on there are our ads. But
can I ask you on the video front, because, and I don't want to get too technical here, but over the years, I've always enjoyed doing videos. I would do them rarely. Like during Trump, occasionally I'd do my own little video, 5 to 10 minutes on something that happened. I had one that did really well, considering I don't do that many videos, but I went after Melania on her, I speak 5 languages bullshit, because I speak a number of languages she speaks. And like, I was watching these clips going, she doesn't speak French and she doesn't speak Italian. So I did a video and I simply simply did my little Photoshop skills where I, inserted the thing beside me and then showed the clip. That damn video going after Melania's got like 2 million views on YouTube. But it's the only video I've had do that well, though, which is the problem. But it got me wanting to do more. But at the same time, I find it very labor intensive. The podcast is bad enough having to go through and just edit it afterwards. And even worse, if we had separate audio streams and all the stuff that we geeky people love to have, it's a pain in the ass. And video is an even bigger pain in the ass. But I've always wanted to do more. How at least starting off, did you get into this and not find that you just went, this is too much fucking work, I can't even get the product out?
Well, my background was I worked for over 5 years at the Ellen DeGeneres Show as an editor, and working on a daily talk show. I mean, the show you see is smiles and fun and
yeah, we've heard about Ellen's show.
You got to edit it out like her throwing books.
I like Ellen though.
I'm going to say I have nothing bad to say. I have nothing bad to say about Ellen. I had a fantastic experience at the show, like a great experience at the show. But what I will say is that it's a hardworking environment in terms of, you have deadlines.
You have to crank stuff out.
And the show is, you have to crank stuff out really, really, really quickly. And so, and I think, honestly, some of that contributes to the stories you hear. I think people are going into it, not to get into a whole Ellen conversation, but I think a lot of people go into the place thinking, she's the lady who gives out checks and it's so fun and it's rainbows and butterflies. And then it's like, we need this from you by noon. And you're like, oh, stop yelling at me. You're so mean.
Is that what you were when the pandemic hit? Like, is that what you had to take a break from, or had you already left and moved on?
I'd already left like 2 years before there. So I was there. I started out as like the night guy working the late shift till like 2 a.m. And I was running their post-production department for their digital team by the time I left, doing all their original
good. That's
stories
perfect.
But basically, that's a long way to say is I was really kind of trained to
get it out, and it wasn't quickly, that's good.
And do them at a level of quality that was good enough for television or good enough for their digital platforms and things.
Okay, that helps.
In a weird way, doing the videos for that helped me do these political videos, even though the content was completely different. But I knew how to get a message across, or whether it was a comedy bit or a political message or whatever, quickly and effectively, and make it look polished and good fast. And so that was kind of my specialty. Okay. So that never was an impediment to us doing things. I think one of the things we get a lot is people don't genuinely realize that at its core, it's really the three of us doing things. And I'm the only one who's actually sitting down and editing content and things like that. Yeah. And so people will be like, I don't understand. Why don't you put your whole, video podcast out online? And I'm like, listen, I would love to do that.
Just have your whole video team do work on it.
Yeah. Right. And I'm like, I would love to do that, but then that's an extra couple hours of work that, it's taking away from other things. So we put little clips up. Why don't you, subtitle the entire podcast and put out, I'm like, because it's us, the three of us, like, I don't have time. And so like,
we've gotten that question. I mean, we've got that question too. Often I think it's been about doing a third podcast a week or doing, just like we both have numerous other things we do. I also have 2 kids who I think like me. I mean, well, no, you guys get it. They're brothers. I got 2 boys.
Oh, there you go.
So,
what's the age difference?
I was gonna say, how old are they?
They're 11 and 14. So
3 years.
Rough age. For you.
It's fun to see. Though. They care, but they love each other 1 second and beating the shit out of each other the next, which I'm sure sounds familiar to you guys. So
the 11-year-old's gonna have a great time when he's a freshman. He gets to steal his older brother's ID.
There you go.
Okay, not that we did that. But by the way, Brett is kind of underselling himself going back.
Wait, I gotta jump in on that one. I went and took my brother's ID. Okay, I shouldn't say I went. Hypothetically, I took my brother's ID and renewed it. And I don't know how the fuck I even did this. And hypothetically, because he's a Greek 5'4" and I'm a Greek 5'9.5", there was no way it was going to pass. So I went to the driver's license place, got a new driver's license with the height 5'9.5".
That's incredible.
And then when he had to go back and get a new one, he had him down as like 5'10" and he's 5'4".
Yeah. You have to walk on stilts or climb on somebody else's back.
I'm not saying I did it, but I'm saying if I were to do it, it would be kind of a pricky thing for a kid to do.
That's pretty hilarious.
Hypothetically, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. Hypothetically, that's kind of a cool story.
Go on, Jordy. I totally forgot about that.
But Brett's really underselling himself. So I don't know if viewers or listeners will be able to see, but Brett's in a room right now. It's probably like a 7x10, if that. He's in that room.
It's in no way 7x10. You're overshooting it.
5x5. He's in that room literally 16 hours a day. I'm not exaggerating.
On his bike, like the witch?
Sometimes the bike's kind of for show.
Okay.
That's not true. I do
the bike's for like...
Hold on. I'm about to compliment you. But if you were going to build an editor for new media, like a video game, and you were gonna like set all the attributes, you would create Brett. I mean, he's creative.
Pretty nice.
He knows how to source the footage, like all of these things that people rely on these large departments. Someone find the footage, someone get the subtitles going, someone get the music. Brett just sees it in his mind, and he's able to just get it on screen. And so he's can't give him enough credit for the success of so much of MeidasTouch. And one of the things that we do, and not to give away too much of our secret sauce here, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm a sports guy. We call it the triangle offense or the big three. And what we mean by that is we want people to know right away that you're looking at a MeidasTouch video when you're watching. So we have our logo in the top left. We have our hashtag that we're going to try and get trending, sort of gamify Twitter a little bit, get our fans, the Meidas Mighty, what they call themselves, rallied up to try and get that to a #1 trend at the top right. And then we do the subtitles on the bottom. And we've noticed that to be a real sweet spot for success for people.
So you have been doing subtitles
on our 30-second ads, yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
not on the whole podcast.
I would die
on our hour-long podcasts. No. But yeah, no, but we sort of figured out that kind of look that works for us, and we've noticed it sort of be adopted by a lot of other organizations.
Right.
Is there like a noise going on?
I don't know.
Are you getting a quake? You're right.
Yeah, I was like,
it's the big one.
I was like, what the hell is that? I think there was my elbow was on the keyboard. I was making
me scared at first. I pranked Brett one time. I was sleeping in his house. This was when the whole dim sum saga unfolded, and he was sleeping, and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, and we were in LA. At his much smaller place than he is now. And I snuck into his room while he was sleeping. I started shaking his bed really hard, and he woke up in a panic. And I realized that's actually not a funny thing to do for someone who lives in LA. Here's
the crazy thing that happened.
Brothers.
Is Jordy was at my place. It was my apartment, my like 1-bedroom apartment that I was in. And I wake up in the middle of the night or really early in the morning to Jordy shaking my bed. And, I think it's an earthquake, and I freak out a little bit. And so I get over that, and I'm like, all right, you asshole. And the next day, Jordy's no longer there. He had went home that day. And we had an actual earthquake in Los Angeles in the middle of the night. And so all of a sudden there's a shaking, and the night before I kind of went through this, but I kind of woke up in a daze, like a little panicked. And I looked over at, I think she was my fiance at the time. And she goes, "This is real." I was so, so don't do Boy Who Cried Wolf on the earthquakes in Los Angeles, man.
That's on me. My bad.
That's so fun. Where are you in LA?
I'm in North Hollywood.
Cool.
Hollywood, but have you seen that the Zillow SNL sketch from a few weeks ago?
Hilarious.
I really felt seen watching that, and like you said about Pittsburgh, like the property values and things like that. You look at these other
Zillow, it's like porn.
Yeah, you look at these other states, you're like, oh my God, look what I could buy in North Carolina.
No, I'm telling you, man, because I kept getting cheaper. I went from, in DC doesn't seem cheap anymore, but I went from New York to DC and then to Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is honestly like maybe a third of the price of DC and a fifth of the price of New York.
Wow. Crazy.
I visited Cincy a few times. I loved it. The funniest thing about Cincy though is your football stadium. It's just empty. The inside of it, it's just like a brick wall. It's really interesting.
It has to do with the Bengals only being sort of a semi-pro team. So there's, I know. I'm sorry. They did that. They have to be called out. I can't help it. And now I'll have a lot of people hating me because I'm a Giants fan. I grew up in New York talking smack about the home
Hilarious.
team. But what are you going to do?
All right, guys, anything to wrap up with? We've been talking to you for an hour, so I don't want to drag you out any longer. But sort of what's coming up this year then for you? What do you think? What are the big issues? Any big issues? Any big things you're going to be focusing on? Or
right now,
real quick, Brett, before you answer
maybe,
that.
Well, I
just wanted to mention one thing that we didn't really get to talk about much during this podcast is I know we focused on the videos a lot. Yeah. But we did so much more than just the videos. We were doing billboards. We were doing digital billboards.
Oh, that's true.
We were doing
we'll talk a little bit. Yeah, you hired like those 2 comedian guys to go to CPAC, for example, too, right?
Yeah, the good liars who are
Oh,
fantastic.
that's awesome.
You should check out their work. Those guys are so funny.
So
I like.
funny.
Oh God!
I want to do a whole TV show with them.
They did one where I was watching the one where they went up to Judge Janine and talked about. They were like, "Hey, have you been drinking this morning?" Like first they're getting a photo with her, and then they're talking about her being drunk, and she's like, "I'm not drunk."
She goes, "No, I would never do that." And they go, "No, we like that about your show. That's what's so good about your show."
Oh my God. Is that up on your guys' website?
Yeah, it's all there.
The easiest place to see it, probably because we tweet so much, is the Good Liars Instagram feed because they have them all up there. But
okay.
Oh my gosh,
that was good.
So
sorry. So Jordy, you're saying the other stuff you guys have been doing?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that it's not just the videos that we do on Twitter. We really try and get out there. Visibility is super important. And I just think in this new media age that we're in, so much of what you do in out of home or on television impacts the social space and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so we're just out there constantly. We're doing a lot of things where we're multifaceted, and we're going to keep growing. And I'll let Brett sort of explain what's next.
Yeah, well, I'll say Georgia, I think, was a real great experience for us, because what Georgia allowed is for us to hone in and focus on one target rather than, do a whole national sort of thing. So with Georgia, we did our TV buys and we did them smartly and efficiently. We weren't, the airwaves were so flooded with TV because everybody was running ads on TV. Right. So we created for TV, 3 ads, 3 creative ads that we thought really stood out from the pack. Those ads, we created a bunch more for digital. But one of those ads in particular was called Grinches of Georgia. And that became like the baseline for every time CNN or any of the local news stations were talking about political ads airing in the state, they would always show clips from the Grinches of Georgia.
Nice.
Like it became, I think it was just so different than everything else out there.
Fantastic.
That, even though our buys were not necessarily what the PACs making, spending hundreds of millions of dollars we're putting out, we got so much bang for our buck because all these networks were airing it. And we tried to make it like we've kind of thought of it almost more like a movie release than a political campaign in many ways, in that, okay, you see the ad on TV that they keep playing every time they're talking about politics in the state. Okay, we're going to give you mailers that have the same creative.
Nice.
We're going to have billboards that have the same creative.
Reinforce.
We're going to reinforce the message in a variety of ways. We're going to have canvassers that are going to come to you and are going to use the similar language that you saw in these ads and are going to speak to you in that way. And so we developed this sort of 360-degree marketing approach to political advertising, and being able to focus on Georgia and only Georgia, it was super helpful to do that. And the thing that I'm really proudest of there too was our on the ground game, where we were knocking on tens and tens of thousands of doors with a lot of people local to the area to get out the vote.
And Vote Your Raise tour truck, Brett.
And we did a truck that toured around the country, the Vote Your Raise tour, to push for COVID relief and an increased minimum wage and positive messaging around the country. So I thought those personal interactions in Georgia were really important, and also things that we couldn't necessarily do as much on a national scale.
Right.
And so I hope that we could use that as a framework, and in future elections, hopefully we're able to raise more money so that we could do these targeted in-person campaigns with people in other states and try to flip other red states blue.
Well, we have an open Senate seat here in Ohio. So, if you're looking around,
going after that one hard.
Ohio's Ohio, man.
I know we've headed in the wrong direction.
It's so weird. It's so bizarre because when I was there, it was a complete 180 of what it is now.
I know. Well, Trumpism, maybe you saw some of that when you were here. I don't, that the part of the state, Youngstown up north, with all the factory losses, I think Trump's sort of whole nationalistic thing plays stronger there than almost anywhere else in the country. And I think, I do think without him on the ballot, we're a much closer state. And so I'm hoping 22, because if you look at 18, we only lost the governor's race by 2 or 3 points. We came that close in the congressional vote overall.
And
so it's lean Republican, but not as bad.
And now he's taking money from the GOP for his own pocket.
Exactly, which is perfect.
And you didn't have MeidasTouch in 2018, so
exactly.
There you go.
But
we'll be happy to have you.
we're going to be keeping our heads down. We're going to be doing all the things that we've been doing. We're going to be doing TV ads, digital ads, billboards, get out the vote campaigns, on the ground efforts to get people to go to the polls and things like that, I think are really important. 2022 is going to be really important to us, but that doesn't mean we start in 2022. That means we start today. That means we start months ago at getting this messaging out there and having an always on approach and keeping people involved. And so, please, if you're listening, consider following us, supporting our efforts, all that. We have the MeidasTouch podcast, which is doing really, really well, and we're really excited about. We've been getting some great guests and having some great conversations on it. It's available everywhere, and we're building the Meidas Media Network. So it's we're spinning a lot of plates. I think we need to be doing a lot, and just do as much as we can, because there's still an existential threat out there that we're all facing.
Right.
Where's the best place for folks to go check you guys out? Is it Twitter, or is there a website, or what's the best?
Yeah, all the above. If you go to our website, MeidasTouch.com, that's MeidasTouch, it will have links to all of our social media platforms. But at MeidasTouch on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, we're basically everywhere you are.
Right.
And yeah, I love the people who, whenever we say, follow us on Facebook, they're like, I don't use Facebook. I'm like, good for you. Okay.
We have like 8 other places you can find us. So,
Good for you. I hate Facebook too, but listen, do we want to seed the ground on all these platforms to conservatives, or do we want to?
I fucking hate Facebook.
I like winning. I like winning better. That's an argument, but that's an argument I have a lot of folks on
Instagram. Yeah. You're on Instagram. Yuck. Unfollowed. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. That's what did it for you?
Oh, somebody actually did it just for that?
We get the strangest.
I love that.
The comments that we get on Twitter. There's people for everything. You could be I like green beans better than carrots. I'm like, unfollowed.
They're like, oh, green beans.
You're
interesting.
Gross.
You must hate the green New Deal.
I do enjoy
green beans instead.
I do enjoy the public unfollow, though. That is my favorite. When somebody doesn't just unfollow you, they say, I am unfollowing you. And you're kind of like, okay.
Like, bye.
We'll hurt all day.
It's just there's just a lot of ownership involved there that I don't quite get. I'm just like, you've invested a lot in this.
People get very passionate. And the weirdest ones, like, I could take like a really horrific insult against me or a death threat, like, fine. But you'd throw like I'm not like okay with it, but I'm like, okay, this person's nuts. But you throw like a weird, like, criticizing something very strange and loud at that, and I will think about it for like 5 days. Like, really? They didn't follow me because I said
I can't live with your hat.
Yeah, because I said I wear hats like that. That's why.
That
was the breaking point.
The big thing we have to live down is that we have David. I'm forgetting David's name of all things. David Frum comes on the show. David Frum comes on the show a lot because actually he is a friend of mine. But all the listeners, all the far left listeners, have decided that he's really a friend of Cliff's, and Cliff has him on.
Oh my gosh,
Cliff is a neoliberal, and they always invoke David Frum and go after Cliff, and I'm always like,
they go after me on Twitter like, oh, have you gone out to dinner with David Frum? And I'll just tag him and be like, David, what are we getting tonight?
You cannot win with podcast guests, no matter how imperfect you think the podcast guest is. You will always have a large percentage of people saying that was the best interview, that was so funny, that was so amazing. And then you'd have people, how do you let that neoliberal shill on your show? Or how do you let fucking Meidas brothers on the show who enabled Trump? I'm like, what are you giving this for? I don't even understand. But that's the fun thing. And once again, I'm like, okay, it's 3 of us booking the show. If you want to try to book our show, if you want to try to do this, be my guest.
I'm literally just cold calling senators all day.
Hi, this is Jordy. Would you come on my podcast?
I have the script down, hunt down email addresses. It's a big part of my day. I'm going to sign off here and start calling again.
No, but in all seriousness, we are extremely thankful for everyone who supported us, and like we're blown away. My computer's making noises.
No, I heard that now too. It's not an earthquake. It sounds like rumbling.
It's like
we could make the national news. If this is
I know,
this
right?
would be one of those earthquake videos.
You have a
It'd be
cool
like
earthquake
the,
on our show. We'll be like
It'd
one
be
of
like
those
that
live-
World
Shake,
Series
Brett,
in
shake.
San Francisco. Oh my God. No, but we're honestly so appreciative for all the support because like we came in here as outsiders who didn't know this world. And from everybody from, the regular person who followed us, who got involved in politics because of us or was previously involved, or, established people like yourselves who invite
You're
us.
calling us the establishment?
Not the establishment, but people who
No,
establish.
John, you're a neoliberal shill, for Christ's sake.
Neoliberal shills like yourselves. We are honestly we're so grateful for like all that support because
it's kind of amazing how much there's a lot of great support out there if you're like a capitalist, if you just present people with the right product, but you did.
It's true. It was it's really mind blowing, honestly. I 2 years ago, I was desperately hoping to get a job with like Judd Apatow, and now Judd Apatow DMs
now you just
me
want to
and
retweet.
Now I just want to retweet from Judd Apatow, and he usually delivers, which is cool. Like,
that's very cool.
This is crazy that this guy, this guy is watching our content, like one of the best directors in the world, and that kind of goes across the board from political figures whom I respect to politicians to entertainers and the like. So it's to just the person who's never donated to a political campaign before, but they saw our videos and were inspired to do so. I mean, it's all, not to get sappy, but it's all really humbling and awesome.
Neat.
And
well, it's very cool.
You guys don't take it for granted one bit. So
now let me just Jordy, let's throw one final wrap to you because I did really, it's funny. You do kind of sit back and let like all of us older guys just kind of a lot.
Well, I know my role in the group, especially when it comes to the MeidasTouch brothers. They're very vocal, and I think I could add my, my color commentary and make some good points here and there while they focus on more of the big picture stuff.
Okay. But do you want to sort of wrap? Anything else to add before we close up since we've all been chatting?
Just thank you so much for having us, and thank you to everyone who continues to support us, just like Brett. If you could do one thing, just go either on MeidasTouch.com, MeidasTouch Twitter, or please check out the Grinches of Georgia video. I think it was one of the sharpest videos we've made, just super creative and interesting. And then look at Trump the Snake, and it just shows a great sort of dichotomy of both ends of the spectrum that we could play on and why I think we're so successful.
People will be teaching this in film class.
I hope so.
Well, I meant more of a joke, cool. Trump the Snake, the whole ethos, but actually, they should be teaching this as far as a how-to for political activism.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Cool.
You guys earned it. Right. What you've done is great, and we appreciate it. So
you guys are the best. I was hoping that when you said Jordy I was hoping that when Jordy and you said Jordy do a rap, I was hoping he was going to spit some bars.
I was really nervous. I'm like, no, what am I going to rap?
My name is Jordy. But
the rapper of the group.
I don't know. Would we get in trouble for that though? I never quite know how that works.
Yeah, it's appropriation. You got to do a Beastie Boys one. Okay?
But I'll take Jordy's response though.
All right, thanks guys. This is amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. A lot of fun.
All right.
Our pleasure.